That's the sound of an Appalachian dulcimer. In today's video, we're going to take two dulcimers that I have, and we're going to clean them up, and we're going to restring them, do a little bit of woodworking to them, and then at the end, play them for a while. So I hope you stick around. Well, these are two Appalachian Dulcimers. The Appalachian Dulcimer is an instrument that's popular in Appalachia, has a beautiful sound, also gained popularity in the counterculture movement in the 60s. But these instruments originated basically in different forms in Europe, as in the zither family in Austria and Germany and in Sweden, various names. As the settlers came to the Appalachians, they kind of modified and built these instruments. It's also known as a grandma's harp because grandma can sit on her lap on her porch and play it. It's a very easy instrument to play. This top one belonged to my mom and the bottom one belonged to my dad, so they're very special to me. And they haven't been played in quite a while. So these are built out of whatever wood they had in Appalachia at the time. But these two here, one's built out of cherry and the other one is built out of oak primarily. So this first one here we're working on was missing the nut. So I cut out a small piece of wood, piece of hard maple, to place into where the strings go in. And this one is the older instrument, built in the 1970s in the Smoky Mountains in far eastern Tennessee. And what I've done here basically, I've taken the nut, small piece of wood, I've lined up with the bridge, and I've marked the string spacing. So it's pretty simple what you've done here. And then basically I will take a couple of drops of quick setting glue there just to hold it in place. And once I've done that, basically, as you can see here, I'll place that nut in there and let that dry. The steps that we're doing today is we're kind of fixing a couple of broken parts, and then we're going to clean these up. We're going to add some oil to them, tune them up, and then play them. And again, this is the older instrument. This is a better made instrument. It's got friction pegs, very traditional. Now this other instrument is the one that's newer, built in the 1980s. This was actually built in California. There is a pretty popular folk music movement that started in the 60s out there in the Santa Cruz Hills. And this one has traditional machine tuners. So what I'm doing here is I'm loosening the strings to take them off. And this is pretty simple, like any stringed instrument. You're just going to undo the strings, pull them out. You might need to take a small pair of pliers to get in there. And just work the strings out. And these are 4 strings. 3 of the strings have about the same diameter, and the one string's a little heavier. You'll see at the end, there's some notes on how these are tuned. And now we're going to clean it up. What I'm using here is ammonia. Diluted down about 1 part ammonia to about 5-6 parts of water. And ammonia is totally safe to use on wood. You got to be careful. You want to spot test it first. What the ammonia does, of course, it lifts up any finger grease and grime and just dust. So we're going to wipe that in, wipe down the entire instrument, and get all the old dust off of there. And there we go. It's kind of cleaned up, and later on we're going to oil that. And this right here again is the newer dulcimer. Has a little bit tinier sound. The middle part of the dulcimer, that fretboard is actually hollow. So once that we've cleaned this up really well, then we'll go on and we'll go to the other dulcimer, the older dulcimer, the larger dulcimer, and work that one. And what I'm doing here is I'm taking out there's some old broken strings in there. These are friction pegs, like what you'd have on a traditional violin or cello. And these pegs were pretty much frozen in, so I had to really work gently not to break them, because they can be fairly fragile. So I'm pulling out the old remnants of the old string. And now I'm having to tap that old peg out. and then work that out. And I found on this peg here, there was a rough spot where it split slightly, so I took a little 100 grit sandpaper. Don't want to get it too fine. And then kind of just work that over a little bit to kind of smooth it out so the friction peg would turn properly. And I added a little bit of super glue in there to kind of reinforce the hole, because there's a couple of cracks in there, and super glue does a great job on doing this kind of work. As you can see, there's other pegs I need to pull out and check as well. And I'll pull out the 4 pegs there, and we'll put those aside. And then the next step we're going to do is we're going to take our ammonia solution again and clean this one up. And this one had a lot more grime on it. You can see some of the details there. Dulcimers are actually fairly simple instruments. If you're going to build a musical instrument as your first instrument should probably be a dulcimer, because it is fairly simple to build. You can get kits out there for that as well. Now we're going to add some oil. So what I do is I take a little bit of tinted staining oil. Just add a couple of 3 drops there. Doesn't take a whole lot for this. And I'm going to wipe that into the finish. And what that's going to do, that oil, it's going to kind of even out maybe a little bit of blotches in the finish. Give a little bit of a nice sheen to it. As you can already see, that's starting to come out pretty nice. Now, oil like this is not an actual finish. It's just an oil. It adds really no protection. And this dulcimer here is actually finished with, it looks like a little bit of shellac finish on there, but it's really light finish. And now I'm wiping in some lemon oil, the lighter color oil. I like lemon oil to use on instruments. It doesn't affect the sound of it. And now I'm going to the larger dulcimer, the older one, the one that's out of cherry. I'm doing the same thing, using the tinning oil, then using some lemon oil on top of that. As you can see, it's coming out pretty nice. Then we'll give that a nice dry wipe down. And we're pretty much done with that part there. Now what I'm doing, I'm taking the nut and I'm cutting in where the strings will go. So the strings will have a place to rest and sit. I'm just using a small carving knife with that. So at this point here, you can see this dulcimer is clean, it's been oiled, and it's ready to start putting back together with some strings. So the strings for dulcimers, like I said earlier, this is a 4-string dulcimer. They come in 3, 4, and 5 strings, but the 4-string is kind of the most common. One end of the string has a loop, and this is the one with the tuning machines, and you simply wrap it around. I've got a little string winder there. You see I've got my thumb holding tension on the string. And then on the bottom side of this, I'll take a small set of wire cutters and cut the excess, and I'm simply working that string down and then cutting off any excess. And with the dulcimer, you have a lot of string winding. So basically, unlike a guitar, you have quite a bit. Now here on the other dulcimer, the frets had gotten raised. They weren't low and even. So it's pretty simple here. Just take a good quality file. This is a file I picked up in Maine, an old antique file, and just file those down. Now I'm putting strings on the dulcimer that has the friction pegs. And this is a little different because there is no tuning machine. You simply feed the string through that peg. So you feed it through and you start cranking that peg. And now it's time to start tuning it up, and it's time to start playing the dulcimer. So tightening the strings up, getting it the right pitch. Here we go. Well, hey, thanks for watching the video today. We ask you to please like and subscribe, click notification buttons. Got a lot of stuff out there planned to do, and we need your help to do it. So again, thanks for watching and have a fine day.